Welcome to North Tees and Hartlepool Voices, telling the stories of our people and community in our trust.
With me in the studio today, I have Matt Harper, who is the lead for LGBTQ+ within the Trust.
Thanks for having me.
Why is visibility important?
I think because how we view ourselves and our place in the world is so largely shaped by what we see, what we hear, our experiences. When you don't see people that are like yourself, you don't hear stories that you can relate to. When your experiences are so different from everybody else around you, it can leave you feeling very alone, like there's something wrong with you, like there's something broken about you. So it's so important that we have these role models, that we're sharing stories about ourselves so that we can reach those people and so they don't feel alone, so they know that they are valid and their experiences matter. So I think it is important that for those of us who are able to share our stories, who are safe to do so, who feel comfortable to do so, I think we really should be doing that where we can. And it's also important for other people to be giving opportunities for people to share their stories. And that's why I'm really grateful for the opportunity to come along and do this podcast, because that's what that's doing. It's given me the opportunity to share my story and to help other people to see that they're not alone. And that's why it was important as well. A few years ago in 2021 for Pride, did an interview for the Trust. The comms team approached us asking for our experiences to put things out, and they invited me to do an interview with them about my experiences as a trans man. It helped me a lot, but it also helped a lot of other people too, and I was really grateful for that opportunity.
So how much has actually changed since the interview?
Well, the first thing is that I've got a beard now, which I'm really proud of and really happy with. Wasn't sure if that was going to happen, so I'm really proud of my beard now. I've also become the lead for our LGBTQ+ staff network, which is a big responsibility and such a great opportunity to make changes and make improvements and help people. As the network lead, I think something I've been able to do as well is run some trans awareness and allyship sessions. So I've been able to share my story, share my experiences to educate others, to give them a bit of a glimpse into the experiences of trans people and find out how they can help, how they can be better allies. I've also been diagnosed with ADHD since that interview, and that's quite linked because since starting on testosterone and hormones, that increase of testosterone also decreased my estrogen, and that can bring about the symptoms of ADHD. It can bring them out more, and I didn't know I had ADHD before that, so that was such a massive shift in my life, and I've had to deal with that and come to terms with that as well. But on a more positive side, the gender dysphoria that I used to feel mostly before transition was still quite present and a big influence on my life at the time of that interview has all but disappeared really.
So you mentioned dysphoria. What is gender dysphoria?
So gender dysphoria is technically it's defined as a marked and persistent incongruence between an individual's experienced gender and their assigned gender. So what that means in real terms is when the sex that you're assigned at birth, so when you're born and the doctor or the midwife said it's a boy or it's a girl, when that isn't the same as your gender, your true gender, how you would identify your gender to another person, when those are different, so when you are trans, there's a jarring feeling between those, and that can be it can be small in some people, but it can also be really distressing and intense and quite anguishing. I heard a really great analogy about sandpaper. It's like if your assigned sex and your experienced gender are two pieces of sandpaper. The gender dysphoria is that feeling when they're rubbed together, and it can be overwhelming. It can feel like that trapped inside your body with nothing you can do about it. I felt it mostly before I got my top surgery, before I had chest surgery, and that feeling of anguish, that disgust, that pain was really intense, to the point where I just wanted to rip my chest off my body, and it was made even worse by the fact that I couldn't do anything about it, to the point where it can lead to depression, to feelings of suicidal thoughts, to self-harm. So it can be really awful and dark place to be. And that's the diagnosis that you need to access hormones and surgery. That place of intense anguish and distress is where you need to be before you can get access to hormones and surgery, which have a life-changing effect, which can help get rid of those feelings or make them less. And that's what really helped for me. Having top surgery was the biggest change in my life. That was a turning point for me, because it was literally a huge weight off my chest, and it just turned my life around so much. From feeling so broken and hating myself, and even going as far as wishing for a cancer scare to be able to have an excuse to get rid of my chest, to be able to just recently doing the Boxing Day dip without a top on, going out in public topless, feeling that wind and the sun on my chest, that euphoric feeling that I now associate with my chest, is just such a 180 turn. So a lot of stuff has changed for absolutely the better.
So how can people be a good ally to trans people within the trust and further afield?
So first and foremost, I would say just treat us as people. The fact that we're trans is important, but it's just one part of us. I would say educate yourselves. There's plenty of great resources out there that you can access. Just be mindful of your sources. There is also a lot of misinformation going on at the moment, unfortunately. So when you are looking for sources of information, the best places are by trans people themselves. Also organisations who actively support trans people. I'd say use inclusive language where you can, and that's not about what you can't say. Not saying you're not allowed to say this anymore. It's all about what you can say. It's about alternative words that you can use, or adding words to make sure that everybody's included and not just some people. For example, instead of saying good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, you could switch that to good afternoon, everyone. And already that's just including everybody, and it's less wordy as well, so it's a benefit to everybody. And there's little changes like that in your language that go a long way. We've recently had some sort of communications out, and there was a little part of it, and it's just said something about all genders instead of both genders. And it was one word, and it was a little difference, and probably put in without much thought. But I saw it, and it was a heartwarming validation, as like feeling seen. So if you can give that feeling to somebody who is going through those feelings of gender dysphoria, perhaps, just by changing one little word, I think that's worth it.
Now, what would your message be to give to any trans people listening in?
I would say you're valid, you matter, you're seen and you're loved. And you might be going through a really difficult time right now, but you will be able to get through it, and you will be so much stronger for it. I'd say reach out if you can. If you can't reach out to family or friends for whatever reason, there are organisations and groups local that are there to help and there to be your family, your chosen family. For example, Hart Gables, there's the Lavender Lounge, there's Rainbow Recovery, and there's also us here at the Staff Network for staff, for patients, for anybody. You can find our contact details on the Trust website, and I will be happy to speak to anybody, whoever it is. We'd never turn down anyone who needs to talk.
Well, Matt, thanks very much. Matt Harper there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Till next time, you've been listening to NTH Voices.